Hello and welcome back to the Rad High Rocks podcast. We are super excited today because we have just been joined by Celia Duff, aka the Badass Gran on Instagram. We've been following her for a while. She previously set a world record in the 65 to 69 age group and recently, just last weekend at Glasgow, set the age group world record for the 70 to 74 age group. So there is absolutely no stopping her. And we're here to find out her secrets. Welcome, Celia.
Hi, thanks very much. I'm
Oh,
not sure. I'm not sure whether I've got secrets, but I'm happy to tell you what I do and think.
Oh, absolutely. We're excited to find out more. But we want to kind of start off taking it back to where it all started, really. Have you always been into sport and fitness growing up, or is it a new thing to you?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I think not exceptionally, not exceptionally in any way. I played sport as a child. I did take up rowing at university, and that was back in the early 70s. And for those times, I was reasonably good. And that stayed with me. So that got me interested in the technique of a sport, in being fit for a sport, and in doing one's best for a competition. So all of those elements. For having said that, I wasn't spectacular, but I became interested. Um, for most of my adult life, I can well remember in the 80s doing those awful aerobics and step aerobics with leg warmers and fancy colours and headbands and stuff. Although I still sport the headbands to run. So that's not a huge amount of exercise for me, really. But no, I shouldn't say that. That's naughty. So I came into High Rocks much later, and had been a gym goer and a runner, but not to any extreme level. So that's a long-winded way of saying not a huge amount apart from the rowing back at university.
Oh, brilliant. And you said you were a runner. Did you ever do any races? Did you do 10Ks,
Oh,
marathon? Did you do
I
anything like
know
that?
somebody wants. So I'm quite competitive, which probably won't surprise you. Competitive mainly with myself, I hope. Somebody once said to me, "Oh, you've never managed to run a marathon." So I entered the London Marathon and
Yes.
and ran that and trained seriously for it. Um, did a reasonable time. I'm not sure that I would ever want to do it again. But it's kind of like ticking things off
Yeah.
lists. So exercise for me was a way of keeping fit, and being healthy rather than competing in a particular sport. That's the way I looked at it until more recently.
That's
Oh,
a
that's
really
amazing.
great way. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, were you going to a gym regularly recently, like before High Rocks, that was
Oh yes,
maybe making
yeah,
you do, yeah, some
yes,
exercises similar to what you
yes,
find at High Rocks?
yeah. So I've been a gym goer for quite a number of years. Belonged to several gyms in and around Cambridge as I've moved house, or it's been for various reasons. You move gym because something else might be on offer. So I go to the gym, go to gym classes, keep fit and reasonably strong. So the whole concept of exercise and weight training and aerobic exercise was not new to me. It's just that I didn't have a purpose other than knowing
Mm.
that it's good to exercise. Particularly, is it particularly when you get older? It's different. As you get older, I think the science shows that if you don't make quite an effort to keep both cardiovascularly and in terms of muscle strength fit, you're going to age more quickly. So you're going to lose
Yeah.
mobility, you're going to lose the ability to do simple things like getting in and out of a chair, getting into a bath, all of those normal functions of life that once they've gone become extremely difficult to get back. And although I'm nowhere, and I was nowhere near that, I was very keen that I keep myself functionally fit for as long as possible. So that was kind of my general, maybe slightly vague, structureless thinking about going to the gym, was to keep my body as healthy as I could as I went into older age.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a, yeah, I think it's very important. And like you say, if you can keep it going, then it's better that way than potentially like losing it and trying to then get it back. If you can just keep on the consistency and keep moving and keep trying to train, the muscles remember what they're doing. So it's a very good way to
it's as you get older, it's harder to regain fitness and strength. When you're young, you can go for quite a break without and then regain quite quickly. As you get older, it's more difficult. Of course, the flip side of that is that it does mean that you do have to keep on. So I will need to keep on going to the gym, keep on running, but you can drop it down a level too, and flexibility and mobility is as important as you age. I think you younger ones can get away with it slightly, not necessarily doing flexibility and mobility stuff, but older people need to. So if I want to age as well as I possibly can, I need to keep fit. So I go to the gym, so I run. It also saves time when I take the dog for a walk. If I run, we do the distance, but half the time. So that's a plus. And that's my reason for being fit. High Rocks came on top of that.
Yeah, it gave you a purpose or something to actually tailor your training towards, which is actually really nice. Do you share this? Do you share this with friends? Is there other friends of your age that share, or do they think you're mad?
Oh, my friends think I'm completely mad. The reason, I mean, I can jump to why did I start doing High Rocks, and it's very simple, really. I was always, my daughter does High Rocks, and her husband were some of the very early adopters of High Rocks when it was newly starting in the UK. So they've been doing it for 2 or 3 years now. And I always used to have the grandchildren when they went away for the weekend to compete. So I would look after them. Well, then the Birmingham 2022 competition, and my son lives near Birmingham, so the grandchildren were going to go and stay with my son, and my daughter just said to me, sort of in passing, "Oh, you should, you're fit. You should give it a go." Yeah. And I thought, never heard of it. It was also at a time when tickets didn't go within 6 minutes of going online.
I know.
Which is, is shows how popular it is. Of course, really upsetting for people who can't get tickets. But this was weeks after tickets had gone on sale, and I thought, okay, I'll get myself a ticket. So I bought a ticket, and then I started reading up about it and thought, what have I done? So that's why I started, just because I wasn't needed for babysitting, and I thought, go on, I'll give it a go without really thinking it through. But then, having committed, I thought I would learn. And I learned the rule book backwards. I learned the movement standards, and I just practiced and tried to get a bit fitter to enter for the Birmingham race. So that's how I came into doing it. And of course, it's is it addictive? I think it is addictive. I mean, people do it again and again. And why do we do it again and again? It's fun. You want to improve your own time.
Yeah, for sure.
You make friends and you encourage each other. I mean, this all stemmed from your question to me, do my friends do it? And no, my friends think I'm bad, but think I'm mad. But I've made friends through High Rocks,
Yeah.
Including the lovely relay team that we sort of put together online. So 4 strangers really got together and put in an over 60s relay team to the UK
brilliant
relay competition in Birmingham last year. So you make friends and then you sustain those friendships and you keep in touch. Absolutely. And you support each other at competitions, and that's added a whole dimension to my life, and is very pleasurable. And Instagram friends, complete strangers who you may or may not ever meet, who are just incredibly supportive and kind, and that's been great fun. It's slightly unreal social media friends, but they are lovely. So I've enjoyed that. So that's how I came into High Rocks and why I've continued to do it. Also because having done it at the age I was 68, and then I did the World Championships at 69. And then I thought, it would be really quite something for me to do it over the age of 70. It kind of felt like a milestone. So I decided to do it for one more year. And I was 70 in the middle of February. So Glasgow timed really nicely with that. So that had been from the World Championships. I thought if the Glasgow date fits with my 70th birthday, then I will carry on until Glasgow. The chances are, I'm declaring right now that I will stop solo after this summer. I can't see myself going on doing solo. It's body breaking. The training is exhausting, and it's just tough doing it solo. Yeah, and I don't want to do it slowly. I admire anybody who does it, but I wouldn't want to just do it more and more and more slowly. I want to know that I've achieved something and then go, hey, I'm happy to clap everyone else from the side, but I don't think I can go on doing this.
Yeah. But then that's the lovely thing, isn't it? That's the lovely thing about High Rocks, is the fact that there is other options. You can do the relay, you can do doubles. Yes. You don't have to, the solo is one option, but obviously there's other options as well.
Yes.
So taking you back, Celia, what were your first impressions when you went to Birmingham for that first ever race, when you signed up and you wondered what had you done, when you walked through those doors on the first day? What were your first impressions?
It's a good question. I think my answer is slightly trite. I mean, it was big. It's huge. It's unlike any other. I mean, the London Marathon is huge, but you're spread out over such a distance. You don't get that feeling of there being such a heaving mass of people. So it felt huge. It was very noisy as well. Those things obviously are the same each time I've done it, but because I was expecting it, that's become far easier, and it's not remarkable. Because I'd prepped carefully. I mean, I am a prepper and a planner. I'd learned the layout, the schematic of the stations and how many laps to run, and I'd gone through it all in my head just as part of my race prep. So when I walked into the venue in Birmingham, I was immediately looking for the things that I'd imagined in my head, and kind of just shutting into myself and going into race mode. So really, it was the size of it, the scale of it, this huge machine with the need for an army of volunteers, who do most of the judging, and then all of the setup prep. And it was an enormous logistic machine that we just kind of drop into on race day and take part. So I wasn't overwhelmed by it, but it was certainly huge, impressive and huge. So that was what I felt as I walked in. When I was doing it, I think I seriously questioned my judgment. I
think everybody does, to be honest.
Question my life choices. I mean, I can remember getting to the lunges and actually thinking I was going to going to faint.
Oh, wow.
Just horrendous. I mean, it's not helped by those sandbags that wrap around your neck and compress your arteries. But you know, you can't. Yes, I really question my choices. But then I kept thinking, you've got 1 more kilometre to do and 1 more station, and that's it. You know, you just.
I know,
just
by the lunges, you're nearly there.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
done most of the hard work. You just got that final push, haven't you?
Yeah.
But what about highs and lows? Like, have you had like favorite points? Have you had points where you've really struggled, maybe in training, or do you follow a specific plan to prepare for the races, or do you just try and cover the exercises, or
okay, so to just try and unpack some of that, because there's quite a few thoughts in there. I mean, the lows, very few lows, which may be surprising, and I thought quite hard about this. What are the lows? I can think of 2. One is winter training. So this Glasgow competition is I mean, you know, remember, I've only done 3. This one comes at the end of a winter, which means winter training, which means running in the cold and sometimes in the ice, and that's hard. It's really hard. And I'm going to talk about running a bit later, but that's tough to make yourself go out in enough warm clothes. Anyway, I mean, you know what winter running is like. That's a low. The other low for me, and I know Hyrox have done something to try and improve this, in the World Championships, you go by age group, and so I was the last solo women group to go off, followed half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour later by the mixed doubles, who then start at the lower age group. So as for most of my race, I was being hunted down by a pack of extremely fit, extremely large, very competitive. I'm sure they were lovely young people, but I got barged and I got physically pushed out of the way a couple of times, and it's not necessary. It's unkind, and I felt very unsafe, so I slowed down. Now, I'm not complaining, I'm not making excuses. It's just an observation. I am aware that Hyrox has made the rule now quite clear that if you're slower, that if you overtake on the outside, just as you would in a car. So that helps people like me, because technically nobody should be pushing me out of the way.
Absolutely not. Yeah. It's
extremely difficult to police, and I noticed at Glasgow people running in all different places in the track, on the track. But it did seem to be a little bit better, but I wasn't being chased down by a younger group. So the group that came after the solo women was the men's doubles, but I was very lucky because my start time meant that they wouldn't start until I was nearly finished. So I had the confidence of being able to run my laps, most of my laps, with just women. And then when the men's doubles came out, yes, it was a little bit scary because they come belting past you and they're really, they're big, they're strong. But I just said, I have got a lap and a half to endure, that's all, and just got on with it. So it didn't slow me down. And it is what it is, it's where you're given your start time is out of your control, and you just have to get on with it, just like you do with your start time, or who you might be racing beside, and so on. So I observe that, but that was a real low for me in the World Championships, thinking, because I wanted to do a PB.
And everyone's got the right.
My lap times were significantly slower than they could have been because I deliberately slowed down. But it is what it is. So that was a low.
I think sorry, Celia, just to jump in there, but I think that's a really good bit of feedback, especially for the Hyrox. It's so young in the sport that actually the whole idea of making it inclusive and everybody's race is just as important. So like everybody's got the right to try and run their laps and feel safe. So
Yes.
hopefully, like, it's really good that you voice it, and hopefully High Rocks take it on board, and then they can change.
Yes, well,
and
I think
the method.
I think they have to an extent by asking people to overtake on the outside. I mean, it amazes me how many people don't read the rule book and don't read instructions, and are still asking questions about the movement standards on the day of the race. So the whole overtaking thing. But this the difference for me was that whereas before I had absolutely religiously stuck to the outside track because that's where slower runners were meant to be, this time I knew I was allowed on the inside track, so I simply stayed in the inside track unless I was overtaking, and I didn't feel I was in the right, so that wasn't a problem, which helped, so that's fine. What I would suggest, but I don't know how it would be policed, is that if for people who need to walk, I do actually think that it's not perhaps right that walkers stay on the inside track, and certainly not 2 or 3 abreast, which does happen, chatting. Every right to do their race at their pace, but I think that does impede people who are actually running. So I would like to see a rule that says if you walk, you move to the outside. But again, I don't know whether how many of us will read a rule book or follow it. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and I think as the sport grows, these rules will start to they've obviously tried different things, and they're trying to work out what the best format is. So I think as it moves forward and the sport grows, I think it will, and people will start to understand the rules and the formats. But yeah, you're right. It's as long as everyone has the right to their own race. So it's like you say, everyone's going to come out all guns blazing because everyone's focusing on themselves. But at the end of the day, you have to be respectful and aware of everybody else on the track.
Just don't get in the way of the herd of men's doubles.
I mean, it sounds scary, doesn't it?
It is really scary. It's really scary. You can hear them thundering. So when they come out the start tunnel, I mean, I was unfortunate enough to be just past the start tunnel when they were released. Of course, there's this pack of 40 or 50, and they just belting for a play. I mean, it's quite funny, really, but at the time you think, oh my goodness.
Should have jumped on one of their backs.
That's a
take you
great
around for the
idea.
last,
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yes.
So highs, how about highs? Let's move to the highs.
So I mean the highs are, I obviously have to say the world records, and going to the world championships. As I was saying to you before we started recording, I am very, very conscious that a world record is on loan. And I'm very happy to look after it while I've got it. And I shall be extremely happy when it gets broken, because it means that there are more older women who are fit and enjoying this sport. So while I would like to hold on to it, for a little while, I'm not precious about it, and I will take care of it until it needs to be passed on. But it's the feeling. I knew what the previous one was. I had very little idea as I was going round. I thought I was there or thereabouts, but I didn't. I wasn't able to keep a close watch on the time. Certainly, as I went into the wall balls, and I just went in on myself and chucked the ball up at the target as fast as I could. I couldn't even hear anyone counting. I had no idea when how many I'd done or how many more I had to do.
Just keep going.
Keep going. And I can't even remember how I was given the signal, whether somebody just grabbed me and said run. But as I crossed the line and I looked up at my time on the board, and of course the previous world record was etched in my mind, and I saw that I had beaten it by a few seconds. And so there is an enormous elation when you realize that what you've just put yourself through, and that you've hung on, and that you've not only achieved what I set out to achieve this time was to complete the race, to be nice to people. I wanted to smile at people. I wanted to help anybody that, looked like they were struggling on the track with a word of encouragement, just to be a nice person. And I wanted, if possible, to do a PB. It would be, I felt that I could do better than my world championship time because of the problem on the run.
Yeah.
So that was my aim. So then to cross the line and see that actually I'd shaved a few seconds off the world record was wonderful. So that's a high. I mean, there are lots of things that are fabulous, but it's the support. So in 2-3 main areas. I mean, obviously my family, my 2 children, who've been wonderful because they don't think I'm ridiculous, and they support me. And that's really, really lovely. The friends that I've made, so particularly the lovely ladies in the relay team that we put together for last October, and we still have a WhatsApp group, and it's just really nice to be involved a little bit in other people's lives that you would otherwise never have met.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's very special. And then the other thing that's special is the people that I've met at the competitions, particularly the judges. So, you get to know them, you see them on Instagram, they come up and talk to you at the competitions and support you and come and encourage you. And there are several of them that have just been incredibly supportive and appreciative, but, just really nice. And you think, it's very humbling when total strangers show kindness. I think it's it's a huge lesson to all of us, and it's something I would try and do myself. But those are things that I would take away from the High Rocks experience. How everyone works together to make it the best it can possibly be, and as happy as it can be, and supportive, and everyone is appreciated. Whatever they've done, they're appreciated, and that makes it very special.
Yeah, I think the kindness and the encouragement and the support goes a long way, because you also don't know everyone's reasons for being there, or what people have been through in their life, and why some people are maybe choosing to do this challenge, or who they're doing it for. And I think just everyone kind of being in it together, everyone knows it's a hard race. It's long, it's difficult, whichever discipline you do it in. But I think the support of everyone showing up on the day and doing it together, and like being really one huge team and one huge family is really nice. And like, you do meet like-minded people, because everyone's the same, really. It doesn't matter what age group you're in, you're all like-minded, because you're all there doing the race. So I think that's a really important message. So be kind and support everyone, because it definitely makes everyone's day.
And my attitude has always been that if I spend a few seconds giving somebody a tap on the shoulder that's struggling on the lap, and say, come on, run with me for a couple of for a short while, or give a judge a hug that's been particularly supportive and encouraging while I've been struggling. So I lose a few seconds, but actually in the grand scheme of things, for me, that's more important. Somebody said to me, because I on the sled pull, which I always find hard, didn't struggle as much as I have done before, but interestingly, my time was no faster than the World Championships. I was very lucky, and I was right down the crowd end, and complete strangers. And every time I finished a length pull, there would be a huge roar. So they were clearly watching me and clearly supporting me. They didn't know me, I didn't know them. And at the end of my 4 laps, my 4 lengths, there was the most enormous roar. And I thought for a split second, do I just run, or do I say thank you? So I walked into the middle of my track, was very careful to stay in my track, didn't want penalty points, and gave a couple of curtsies to the crowd.
Oh,
Brilliant.
love that.
and got a, you know, a laugh and a clap. And I just thought, you know, I've lost a few seconds. Really, what does it matter? Because they've been so lovely that I just want to say thank you. And probably it made me run faster because I was then feeling happy, you know.
Yeah.
So that's always been my attitude, is yes, do your best, but be nice and supportive of everyone else, because they support you.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So what about some top tips then? Do you have 3 top tips for anyone looking to race high rocks that you would be able to...
Well, yeah, I've probably got more than 3 actually, if I'm allowed.
Oh, absolutely.
I have loads. So good.
Yeah, I get a good PT. I don't think it's something that you can do as well as you might on your own. So a PT who really knows, not necessarily about high rocks, but who knows about building base strength, who knows about movements, who knows about functional fitness. I've been my fitness and strength has been hugely improved by having a number of good PTs over the years. So I'd say that don't underestimate the importance of the running component in high rocks. I know there's, you know, people say different things. I feel very strongly that you need to be able to run and to sustain your running. And in order to do that, and one of my relay team members who is a PT herself actually, and a high rocks coach, said to me just before Christmas, Celia, you have got to start doing a minimum of an hour's long, slow run every single week, as well as the other kind of running I do. And you know, talked about zone 2 running. I'd never heard about zone 2 running. I started looking it up and understanding what it meant. And so
I love that you're bringing this up. I love it. We do it so much with our like the guys that we train and the girls that we train, and everyone is like, oh, I don't want to do a zone 2 run. And we're like, you've got to, or a zone 2 ride, or yes,
absolutely.
Love that.
Absolutely have to. And I too hated it, but it gets easier. It gets easier. And I did the same. I tested myself by doing the same route a couple of times and just seeing the difference in my speed, even though my heart rate was being maintained in zone 2. So amazing. So I emphasize running. You must run. You must do zone 2 running, and then you must start adding. So I add in interval training and sprint training. That's been difficult in the winter because of finding somewhere safe. But sprint training, just to get your body able to put in a burst if necessary. So I can't emphasize that enough. And of course, that's quite hard when you're not really a runner and when you're older. But you know, I can still run at a standard. So as a PT running, learn the rules. I'm amazed, as I said before, how many people go into high rocks not knowing the movement standards, not knowing the rules, not knowing whether you can, you know, have something passed across the barrier, you know, all of that stuff. It's all in the rule book. You know, read it. It's really easy. It's really clearly laid out. Learn the schematic of the layout of the venue. So know what the movement standards are. Then I would say have a plan. So have a training plan and a plan for the race. And a training plan needs to be worked out if you have a PT with your PT. And I'm pretty obsessive, and I write down everything that I've done on a kind of, you know, almost a spreadsheet. No, it's not a spreadsheet, but the equivalent of a spreadsheet by date, so that I can look back and see what I was doing at the same stage for a previous race, and what weights I'm lifting and what distances and speeds I'm doing. So that I think it's about being accountable to myself. So I can't pretend that I've done the training this week if I haven't, and it's not logged. And a plan for the race, remembering that very few plans survive contact with the enemy. So you have to have a plan B. In fact, my plan this time did survive contact with the enemy, and it worked. It's never done before, but I think that was just a little bit more experience. But it's really important to think, how am I actually going to attack this race? And what happens if this or this goes wrong? So that you don't panic during it, because almost always something will go wrong. There'll be some sort of hiccup. And if you have a fallback to deal with that, then you're not going to panic and you're going to be able to complete. So a training plan. And then I think probably just one final thing I would say in terms of tips is don't get bogged down in what, I'm going to be a bit critical here, in what I think is a certain amount of pseudoscience that's peddled on Hyrox forums and, you know, on social media. So, you know, comments about whether you should or shouldn't train in a certain way or take supplements, or, you know, the only way to approach it is, if there isn't clear scientific evidence for something, for most of us, this is actually just about training smart, being fit, keeping well fueled, keeping hydrated, sleeping properly, you know, all the sensible stuff.
Yeah.
All the basics.
All the basics, and then you'll be, you know, the best you can be. But I'm certainly not good enough for the tiny gains that you might get from something to make a difference. And I think I certainly could over obsess about it and then get anxious, rather than just doing the basics. So those would be the tips. I mean, I suppose in all rolled up, it's just about being sensible, really. Tips for how to approach Hyrox. Know the rule book, know the movement standards, do functional fitness training, and I'd say something else about, so people also seem to get quite obsessive about practicing the movements, the stations, when actually what I think you need is to be fit, strong, have a really good foundation of strength. All the things that you would do in a gym, in a functional fitness class, and the movement standards, the movements that you actually have to do, will then come on top of that. And provided you practice the movements, so you can do a walking lunge and put your knee to the ground, you don't need to spend hours and hours and hours doing walking lunges. What you need, as you both know, is exercises that strengthen your glutes, exercises that strengthen your quads, being strong enough to hold something up on your shoulders. You're going to be able to do a walking lunge as long as you know what the movement standard is. So spend your time getting strong and fit, and put the movement standards on top of it, rather than the other way around. That would be
absolutely
some advice I would give.
I think that is brilliant advice, and I think you're 100% right. And the foundations are so important. And then there's the things like reading the rules, which it takes away stress on the day anyway. You want to enjoy yourself. You don't want to have added stress because you don't actually know if your knee has to touch the ground on a lunge, or how far you have to go down on a wall. But you want to go into it knowing all of that already. I fully agree with everything you've said there. And what about mental strength? And do you think Hyrox is a physical race, mental race, bit of both?
That's a good question. I mean, it's certainly a physical race. It's very physically demanding, cardiovascularly, endurance, strength. So there is no question that you need to be physically really well prepared for it, and ideally in very good shape. I'm sure people do it injured, but that must be both difficult and I mean, not terribly good for their bodies, and also will affect their time. But very physically. So in terms of physical, you know, I think you do need to take great care of your body. It kind of builds on the tips that I use for myself that I've said before. Be strong, be supple, be mobile. Give yourself time to rest and recover. Be well hydrated, be well fueled, so that your physical preparation is as good as it can be. In terms of mental, I mean, obviously there's the whole thing about, can I do this? And that depends on your psychology. So some people, I mean, I'm not like this. I tend to have a very negative view of my own ability, which is hopeless and very draining. Other people will be, and it must be a much happier place, be much more positive about it. You know, yes, I can do this, and this is my plan, and I know I can beat this time, and go into it in a really, mentally in a really happy place. I wish I was like that. What I try and remember at the beginning of the race, and I did this time in Glasgow, whether it was part of what worked for me or not, I don't know, but I reminded myself, sounds a bit twee, but it's very genuine. I reminded myself how grateful I was to be able to be there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I thought how lucky I am to be supported by my family, to be fit enough to be here, to have been able to get a ticket, to have a chance to put all of my training into practice on the day. And I just stood on the start line, and I thought, thank you. I am grateful for this. So that turned me, because as I said to you, my psychology tends to be a bit negative. I get very nervous. I get very anxious. I think everyone's better than me. What's the point of doing it, because I'm not going to be very good. So it turned that very negative approach that I have in much more into I'm here. I'm the best I can be today. I'm going to do my best, and it set me off. I was smiling as I started rather than being nervous. Now, I while I can give kind of top tips on physical preparation and rules, I can't give top tips on mental stuff, because it really depends on the psychology that you start
I think
with.
though, what you've just said is a huge tip. Just the gratitude of recognizing where you are and the people that have helped you to get there. And we like live by the tagline of do it while you can, because we know, like, we've lost parents way too early who didn't get the opportunity to do everything that they wanted to do, and we've got friends who have been injured or had serious illnesses where they've been stopped in their tracks from doing what they want to do. So the fact that you can line up at the start of a high rocks race, and you've done your training and you have the opportunity to experience it, just that opportunity to do it because you're physically fit, you're healthy, and you've got family and friends that support you is one of the best things to, we can get caught up in times, we can get caught up in people wanting to qualify for the world champs, but if you look at it, if you go back and you have an injury or something happens, you just want to be on that start line, you just want to be able to do the race. So I think that's a brilliant tip for anyone that's there, like that starts and does either their first race or gets caught up in the hype, really. Just maybe bring it right back down to the fact that you're just grateful to be able to be there and be fit and healthy enough to race.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Oh, I think that is a good point to maybe lead us on to our ending questions, which is the cheeky insights.
Okay.
So we've got 8 questions for you, and we're gonna start off with the question that everyone seems to want to know, and that is, what shoes do you wear to race high rocks? I
can't believe the amount of chatter there is on social media about shoes. I mean,
I know.
But before I answer specifically, I would say to Anona, anything that's got a good grip and you feel comfortable in. I personally wear Hoka Arahi. And I've got wide feet. I'm an old lady, my feet are collapsing, and I get their wide fitting, and it worked for me first time, and I'm not going to try anything else. So
stick with it.
Hoka Arahi 6 is what I wear.
Perfect. Like that answer. Okay, and out of the venues that you've raced, which one was your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
That's so difficult. I think I can only say, so it was Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow. I think I will say not Manchester, and the reason for that is that you have to run 3 times round the track.
Yeah, it's quite
it's quite draining, and it took, I think, apart from the pack of mixed doubles behind me, it was just it running around the outside of a track that's quite small, I think just takes longer. So
Yeah.
so Manchester only. I loved everything else about the Manchester World Champs, but the track was not great. But otherwise, I couldn't say, you know, Birmingham was near. It was a mission to go to Glasgow. Took me I was away for 3 nights, but then, you know, I happened to live in the south of England. It would have been wonderful for you guys living
up in Scotland.
you know,
Yeah.
so that's not a reason to like or dislike a venue.
Yeah. Oh no, it's good, and it's nice to race in different venues as well.
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
different experiences in each,
Yeah,
but no, that's
yeah.
good. Okay, so what's the favorite station and why? I mean, maybe not the lunges, if that was where you questioned your life.
Well, it's certainly not the lunges. I mean, this is very easy. So, again, I think we were chatting before about my background, and I'm if I have a sport, it's rowing. So I used to be on the water, which is a little different to ergs. But I used to be a very reasonable and useful rower. So the rower comes easily to me. And the rowing it's all about technique, and some people's technique is pretty dreadful. They could go a lot faster with good technique. So because it's so I like it because it's my sport, and I have the technique, and I can do it without any problem. I enjoy rowing. It's more than halfway through, so mentally, it's
very good place.
This is a station that I can do, and it's more than halfway through. And I also use it as not a breather, but I never go full tilt on the rower. I don't actually go full tilt on the ski erg either, for similar reasons, knowing that I've got 3 more runs and 3 more stations, and I'm just building up for a push. So it's hands down, the rower is my favorite station.
Oh yeah, I love that. You can settle into it a bit more, I think, on the rower.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you get a little sit down, nice rest.
That's true. That's true. Yes. Yes.
Okay, if you could do a doubles high rocks with anyone in the world, it doesn't have to be an athlete, it could be anyone, who would you choose?
Oh, I mean, that's a really good and cheeky question, and I haven't got a clever answer to that, because I would, you know, I'd have to make something up or think of somebody interesting. I am actually doing doubles in Olympia in the end of April. And so obviously with my friend Carol, who I met after the World Championships, and who was a member of our relay team. So we're doing doubles, and we're just going to have the best fun.
Oh yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. But I must also give a shout out to my daughter, who was.
I was going to say, is there going to be a mother-daughter doubles coming up?
Well, she, as I said to you, she got me into high rocks, and actually I was pushing and pulling some ridiculous weights in the gym 2 weeks before Glasgow, because my PT knew that they freaked me, and he wanted to show me that I could do ridiculous weights, and they were over women's pro weights. So I was telling Alice that I was doing these weights, and she just said we should do pro doubles.
Yes.
Now, obviously, she would do most of because she does pro a lot. She would do most of the stations. I can do the ergs, and I could do a bit of everything, but she would do most of it. But you just sort of thought, actually, before I retire from high rocks, that would be my fantasy. So I am doing one, and my fantasy would be to do it with my daughter at pro level.
Well, she needs to make that happen, doesn't she?
Yeah, we are fully behind that.
Yeah,
I think that is a great
and then my t-shirt will say Badass Gran, and her t-shirt will just say her daughter.
I'm with her.
Yeah, I'm with her. Yeah.
Love that. Very, very cool answer. And I really do hope that comes true, and you can do it together.
Yeah.
Okay, next one then. Do you fuel for high rocks? And if so, what do you use, and when do you take it? Do you take anything during the race?
So do you mean, when you say fuel for high rocks, do you mean in general, or do you mean for the race?
For the race. Like, do you take any gels or sweets or anything during
yes.
it,
So yes, I do. So I make my own electrolyte solution, which is quite simply the World Health Organization rehydration fluid, salt and sugar to the appropriate proportions, and I drink that. I mean, I drink that after any training, but I always make sure that I've drunk that before the race. So it's my own electrolyte. Well, it's not mine, it's the WHO electrolyte solution, but it's not fancy, expensive stuff. And then during the race, I carry, can I advertise? I carry Marks and Spencer's Jelly Babies.
Oh, brilliant.
Yes, good choice.
Absolutely delicious, and I
not just
out,
any Jelly Babies,
not just anybody. Absolutely. I worked out in terms of grams of carbohydrate that I need to take about 5, and I take them twice. So I take 5 Jelly Babies after the sled pull, and then I take another 5 after the row, and they sit in a little pocket in my waistband at the back, and just about don't get too sticky. So I use the chalk from the pots on the stations and fish out 5 Jelly Babies from my pocket. And the other thing about Marks and Spencer's Jelly Babies, they dissolve very quickly, so you're not left with a sort of great gooey mess in your mouth.
You don't want anything too chewy, do you? No, that's really good. That's the same time that I take on fuel in the race as well. I think after the sleds and the row, it's good timing.
Yes.
Just when you need it. Okay, next up is, what is your favorite training session for High Rocks? Do you have a favorite, or it doesn't have to be too specific? It could be the long run or the strength, or
well, again, it's a great question, and my answer, I hope it doesn't seem flippant, but it's running with the dog. So
that's brilliant.
My long runs I do when my friend Carol was saying, come on, you've got to knuckle down and do this, I changed my pattern and did my long slow runs are actually on the road, and I listen to music trying to get my cadence up, because that's going to make me go faster. But other times, if I do, like this morning, I went for a 4.5K, and we just do it on the dog walk area on the fields, and I really enjoy that because he's happy. I can still listen to music. I can look at the stuff in the fields, particularly as the weather gets nicer. So, I could say, oh, it's this kind of training session or that kind of weightlifting, but actually, I think it's running. It's running with the dog.
Probably one of our favorites as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice. I think you can just switch off as well, can't you? And just enjoy being out and being active. So no, very good answer.
And know that you're building your engine. Very important to build your engine.
Absolutely. Okay, what I mean, we've probably kind of covered this already, but I'll say maybe again if you've got any last specific reasons. But why do you think someone should sign up for their first High Rocks?
Oh, I very simple. I think if you want to challenge yourself and if you want to focus, so you can. Many people are very happy just to go to the gym on a regular basis and go back and go back. Other people need a reason, and I think when you have a focus, it certainly does may make you work harder, and it also may make you feel better about yourself and what you're doing. So I think from that perspective, I would encourage people to try High Rocks, or I mean, there are any number of these kind of things, functional fitness events, and training towards them does give some kind of purpose and timetable and a reason to keep going. And it's fun, and you make friends.
Brilliant.
Absolutely, so true. And lastly, is there anyone that you would love to see us speak to on our podcast that you would then be able to listen back to?
Yeah, so this is an incredibly simple answer. I don't know enough people in the world. I look at social media. I watch things that they post and others post, But actually, I think it's about hearing from ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things.
And
Because
you are certainly one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes it relatable, you know. Oh, if they can do it. I saw a lovely post of I don't know how to pronounce her name, the lovely girl with the long red hair at High Rocks who does a lot of the announcing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
With
I
her
saw
mum.
a post
She
with her mum,
Yeah.
and you know, that must be so inspiring to so many people. The little story around it, and the fact that there was she doing it with her mum, and her mum was loving it. And you'd look at that and you'd think, wow, actually, maybe I could do that. So ordinary people just doing something that for them is extraordinary, and that then would inspire more people to take care of themselves, get fit, and enjoy, you know, being outside and being active.
Well, that's
100%.
certainly you, Celia. That's for sure you. And we've been inspired by watching you over the last couple of years.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your time today to come and chat to us and share your insights. And hopefully it inspires people as well to go and do it while they can, which is one of our biggest things.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So where can everyone find you? On Instagram, you're at Badass Gran _1, is it?
Yeah, so I'm Badass. I think it's Badass _Gran 1.
Badass
_ Gran 1, because Badass Gran had already gone. So
there's many of you Badass Grans in this world. Then
yes, I did a dreadful thing. I was posting the other day on something about delayed onset muscle soreness, and I nearly hashtagged DONS, and then I suddenly realized what that might lead to. I mean, I had no idea what you do with hashtags, but you know, I'm sure it leads to something. So I'm Badass _ Gran 1, and yes, I am on Instagram, and otherwise, I mean, I'm on Facebook, but I never use it. Just, yes, if people want to message.
And your next be at London Olympia. That's your next race.
Yes, doubles in Olympia.
Doubles in Olympia, and we'll be there as well. So hopefully we'll be able to catch up in person.
Yes,
which would be lovely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, otherwise, thank you so much for coming on and for your time.
Pleasure.
We look forward to following your journey, and
thank you
for seeing you do a doubles with your daughter. I think
thank you very much.
Got to be one that's on the card.
Yeah.
And thank you to everybody that's listened today and has continued to listen to our podcast. Like Celia said, we're trying to bring extraordinary people on that they class themselves as ordinary, but we think they're extraordinary. So it's nice to hear their stories. And if you enjoyed it, please follow this podcast. Please share this episode so we can get Celia's story out there to get more people to do it while they can, and maybe see more people at the start line of a High Rocks in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.